A night that shouldn't exist. The David Stephens Abduction, 1975. What began as a quiet drive through rural Maine turned into one of the most chilling and detailed UFO abduction cases ever recorded. On October 27, 1975, at around 2:30 a.m., 22-year-old David Stephens and his friend Glen Gray were driving along a dark, isolated road near Oxford, Maine, heading toward Lake Thompson. The night was still, empty, just their headlights cutting through the darkness. Then, everything changed. You are watching Space, the final frontier above and beyond an open-minded channel. For your entertainment, we are looking into the David Stephens abduction case. This case is tied to one of the first ever recorded men in black encounters. Thanks to Dr. Herbert Hopkins, who was investigating the Stephens case as a skeptic, who suddenly found himself in the middle of something extraordinary. He was threatened by a stranger and told to stop his investigation. So sit back and relax as we explore this intriguing case from 1975. A massive object suddenly appeared above them. Stephens described it as being as big as a football field, glowing with intense, unnatural light. The craft moved with strange precision, positioning itself directly over his car. Before he could react, a blinding beam of light shot down from the craft. The craft was no more than 300 feet from the roof of his car. They stared in disbelief at the unbelievable display above them. Stephens recalled they went around a curve and suddenly saw two more colored lights in front of them. The two smaller crafts had emerged from Trip Pond. Their lights were only visible for a few seconds before they filled all points of their vision. Stephens' car suddenly came under some kind of outside control. Moments later, they found themselves back on the road to Oxford. Yet when he tried to steer the car, it appeared to be elevated off the road. The two crafts would rise high into the air before diving towards the water. They repeated this action several times. Then suddenly, the two smaller crafts, along with the main craft hovering over the crippled car, shot into the air and disappeared. At this time, David restarted his car, pushed the gas pedal to the floor as hard as he could, speeding off to his parents' home. Suddenly, they noticed the sky above them was beginning to lighten. Looking at the clock, they were astonished that it was after 7 a.m. Hours had apparently slipped away. They were left disoriented, shaken, and unable to explain what had happened. Neither spoke much on the drive home, but both understood something impossible had taken place. Physical effects, investigations, incredibility. At around 5 p.m. on the day of the incident, Eldon Bartlett, the deputy sheriff of Oxford County, would interview the two men. He would recall how the two young men's fear was evident and how both of them appeared nervous and anxious. A local police officer also reported seeing a similar UFO in the same area that night, adding credibility to their account. Whatever happened that night didn't end when they returned home. Both men became violently ill, swollen hands and feet, extreme chills despite sweating, weakness, confusion, and inability to function normally. It took days for them to recover. Stephens and Gray were intent on keeping their sightings to a minimum. However, their sudden found illnesses changed their thinking. On the 28th of October, Brent Raines, a resident working for the Center of UFO Studies in Chicago, went to speak with the two men. Raines had been informed through his connections at the county sheriff's office that they had been recently abducted by aliens. During his interview, he noted the same nervousness as the deputy sheriff. In his opinion, he believed that something did happen that was unusual. Investigators Brent Raines and Shirley Fickett quickly took interest. Stephens eventually became the primary witness, as Glen Gray refused to speak publicly. Following a brief conversation with both men, Raines drove the two men to the scenes of both sightings, the cornfield near the roadside and the dirt road overlooking Trip Pond. Although both men went with him, they both refused to leave the vehicle once they arrived. The men suddenly began having flashbacks of the incident that would last for the next several days. It was becoming more and more obvious that something lurked in their memories. Missing time, broken reality. Weeks after that night, the silence became unbearable. Confusion turned into fear, and David Stephens made the decision to undergo hypnotic regression, hoping to uncover what had been erased from his memory. What emerged changed everything. With the guidance of trained professionals, including Dr. Berthold Schwartz and Dr. Herbert Hopkins. Stephens began to relive the missing hours in vivid detail. What he described wasn't just unsettling, it was terrifying. He hadn't merely seen the craft, he had been taken aboard it. Session after session reinforced the same conclusion. Stephens and Glen Gray had been physically removed from their car and transported onto the UFO. Under hypnosis, the missing time begins to reveal itself. Weeks later, what he described was frightening. They weren't just observers of a UFO flying around in the sky. They were physically taken on board it. During repeated sessions, Stephens revealed they were instantly transported from their vehicle into the UFO. When the lights shined in their eyes, they blacked out. The next memory Stephens had is of looking down on the car from the window of a strange room. Inside the unusual craft, Stephens recalled looking down at his car from above, through what appeared to be a window inside the craft. That's when he saw them. 5 beings, all about 4 feet tall. They had pale, almost artificial skin, mushroom-shaped heads, large, slanted, dark eyes with no eyebrows. No noses, only small dots where nostrils should be. Their bodies were covered in black robe-like garments. Their hands had 4 webbed fingers and thumbs. They didn't speak. Instead, their voices entered his mind. "Do not be afraid." He was asked to remove his clothing. Stephens was guided into a room that felt disturbingly clinical, like a hospital but not of this world. The air had a burnt, metallic smell. In the center of the room was an operating table. He was told to lie down on it. At first he resisted, at one point even striking one of the beings in his panic, but they remained calm, persistent, and almost emotionless. Eventually he complied. What followed was a detailed examination. Blood samples were taken, hair and fingernail clippings collected. A needle pierced his skin, injecting something into his shoulder. All the samples went into some kind of strange-looking tubes. A machine similar to an X-ray device scanned his body with strange clicking sounds. Throughout it all, the beings reassured him telepathically that he would not be harmed. Strangely, he reported feeling little fear. After what he thought was around 20 minutes, he was taken to another room and asked to put his clothes on, which he did. Then his memory seemed to skip forward. Again, he looked out of the window at his car below. In the blink of an eye, they were returned to the car. Neither man could remember the details of what had happened to them in that lost time without the help of hypnosis. They were disoriented, shaken, and deeply unsettled. Enter the men in black. Dr. Herbert Hopkins, an experienced practitioner of hypnotic regression, conducted the sessions on December 2nd, 1975. Stephens' parents sat in on all of the sessions, along with investigator Fickett. Dr. Hopkins noted that Stephens would not answer certain questions, even though he would repeat the questions several times during each session. Hopkins' belief was that Stephens was being inhibited by the creatures, so he wouldn't reveal everything that had happened to them. Hopkins later said, "It took a deep level of hypnosis to get anything out of David." Under multiple hypnosis sessions, observed by family members and professionals, David remained consistent. Dr. Herbert Hopkins described David Stephens as frank, straightforward, and honest. Weeks later, after the hypnotic sessions were over, a man dressed in a black suit wearing a black hat and white gloves arrived at Dr. Hopkins' house. The man delivered a chilling, strange message. Stop investigating the Stephens case. His encounter with the strange man in black led Dr. Hopkins to the conclusion that would change his stance completely. He became convinced the encounter was real. The beings were not human, and the UFOs were likely extraterrestrial in origin. Lasting effects. The encounter would change David Stephens' life forever. He reported feeling like he was always being watched. He experienced extreme fatigue, sudden intense hunger episodes, faced ridicule from the public, and even lost his job. But despite it all, he stood by his story. Meanwhile, Glen Gray chose silence, wanting only to be forgotten. Final thoughts. The David Stephens abduction remains one of the most detailed and compelling UFO cases of the 1970s. With physical effects, corroborating witnesses, and consistent hypnotic testimony, it continues to challenge skeptics and believers alike. Was this a genuine extraterrestrial encounter? A psychological event? Or something even stranger, something we still don't fully understand? One thing is certain, that night in Maine wasn't just a sighting, it was an abduction. Thank you for watching Space: The Final Frontier, Above and Beyond. If you have enjoyed the retelling of the David Stephens abduction, then like and subscribe so you won't miss the next time we explore the above and beyond.